Hey, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to record this quick video for you to give you a little backstory and a little rundown of the strategy that we're using with the agents that we're currently partnered with. That way, before we hop on, you can go ahead and get a better feel for whether or not this even, makes sense for, what you're trying to do with your business and all. That way, if it's not, you can save both of us some time. So yeah, I guess to give you a little bit of backstory here, I'm a licensed agent myself. I got into real estate right out of high school, so I was 18 at the time. Honestly, didn't have a clue what I was doing at first, so I quickly ended up joining a real estate team. And on this team, I was working as an inside sales agent, right? So, and I kind of gravitated more towards that side of the business. And so I ended up running their ISA department for a few years. But what we were doing was essentially, we were in charge of all of the incoming leads, that this team was paying for, right? So they were a very fairly large team. So they were pretty big spenders when it came to like Zillow, Realtor.com, OpCity, Boomtown, Ylopo, Bold Leads. We've kind of seen them all come and go at this point. And so, we were in charge of all those incoming leads, making sure we had a good speed to lead, super, super important in this industry, as well as making sure that we were following up with everybody on a long term basis, right? And no one was like slipping through the cracks. And so we had this great dynamic where, we were sorting through all of the leads, finding the legitimate buyers and sellers, and we were booking them in, sorting through them. And we were booking in the buyer's consultations and the listing appointments directly onto the more traditional agents' calendars, right? And so, it created this great dynamic where the more traditional agents could focus 100% of their time and energy on really what they were best at, which was closing deals and making sure their clients are having a great experience. And us inside sales agents were 100% focused on things like lead flow, long-term follow-up, and, conversion rates to make sure that nothing was slipping through the cracks, because that happens all the time in this industry, right? And it's, I'm not sure, how long you've been in business. So this may or may not be something, that you still experience today. But most agents' business is like this, right? It's extremely up and down, very volatile, very inconsistent. 1 month you've got 5 closings, then 3 months go by and you don't have one. It can be very inconsistent, especially when you're just dependent on like your sphere and referrals and things like that. And so, I guess the reason that happens in most cases is because, agents will, spend, when they don't have business, spend all their time focusing on the activities that get them business in the first place, right? And then as soon as they do have business, their energy and attention tends to shift towards those clients, making sure that those deals are closing, that the clients are having a great experience, that sort of thing. And so, then, they finally close those deals, but they find themselves right back, where they got started, right? And it creates this vicious like 60 to 80 hour work week where you're just scrambling to find deals, and then you finally get them, you're scrambling to close those deals, and then you finally close them, and then you got to do it all over again. And that's really what forces most agents out of the business in those first several years, right? They say like, what is it, 95% don't make it beyond, 5 years. Maybe it's even more than that at this point. Tons of agents are just dropping like flies. With how the market's going and everything. And basically, my point for bringing that up is that wasn't something that the agents on this team really ever experienced or dealt with, because no matter how, inconsistent or how slow, their business was with like their personal life, like with their sphere, and referrals and like their SOI and everything, like no matter how slow their business or what was going on in their personal business, they always had, new buyers consultations and new listing appointments being dropped directly on their calendar, right? So, throughout the years, this team was able to maintain a very consistent upwards trajectory, and overall, the business was able to grow a lot faster that way. And that, even each independent agent on this team was able to do extremely well for themselves as well. So, fast forward to today, that is essentially the same strategy that we have built out and kind of replicated to continue, implementing into other agents' businesses all over the country, right? So, I'm sure you've probably been wondering what this is that I have pulled up here, but this is basically a diagram of our entire, business strategy that we use with all the agents that we're partnered with, broken down into like each, individual step of the process. And so I'm going to go ahead and walk you through some of this. So I guess overall, there's three main components to what we do. There's the front end, how we're getting people in the door in the first place, right? Like the leads, the names, phone numbers, and emails, everything, essentially every deal, starts off as a lead at some point. And so you've got to get a large volume of them in the door in the first place. And so I'm going to show you exactly how we do that, as well as, the second department of our system, which is, the inside sales agents who are basically sorting through everything, finding the legitimate buyers and sellers to pass them off to our agents that we're partnered with. And then this is kind of like the skeleton of the system, right? This is like your CRM, your pipelines, your automations, all of the tools that you have in place to basically make sure that nobody slips through the cracks on a long-term basis, right? And so let's kind of dive into all of this here. So I know right now I actually have one of our own agents' numbers plugged into here. So when they came to us, they wanted to add 6 figures of GCI to their pipeline within 90 days, right? And so that meant in their market, where the average home price is around 400,000, that meant they needed to sell 9 properties at a 3% commission rate, averaging around 12K per deal, right? And so based on all the data that we've collected over the years, we're essentially able to reverse engineer their goal to break it down to figure out exactly how many appointments we need to be generating and how many leads we need to be generating on a monthly and weekly basis, right? And so in this case, this agent needed to generate 120 new leads every single month, right? Or 4 new leads per day. And so, we do this using paid ads. It's the most consistent platform, out there, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, there's even TikTok nowadays. So it really just depends on what you're trying to do and how much you're trying to spend as far as which platform you want to use. And we'll kind of discuss what that looks like for you when we speak. But depending on whether you want to target sellers or whether you want to work on buyers is also going to kind of determine how you're going to market to these people as well, how you're going to be getting them in the door in the first place. So, we'll also have a conversation about what, makes more sense depending on your specific market. But I guess I'll just show, for the seller side to kind of show you how that works. A lot of agents are focused more on, acquiring new sellers right now. So you're typically piquing people's interest with a home evaluation campaign, almost always across the board. People need to find out how much their house is worth. They need to find out how much equity is in it. They need to find out how much they would sell for if they sold it now, how much they'd walk away from a deal in with, basically. And so something kind of like this, I'm sure you've seen similar things, nothing too crazy. Obviously, this is going to vary from market to market, but this is how you're able to get a lot of people in the door for very cheap, like a very low cost per lead. And so this is going to look different, in a lot of places, using different headlines, even different colors, different photos, different price points and stuff to get people in the door, because every market's going to react a little differently to what you put out there. And so there's a lot of split testing that goes into initially finding something that resonates really well with your market to find the perfect balance between like lead volume, but also making sure that they're quality, right? You don't want to be generating a ton and tons and tons of leads, but none of them are any good, right? It's like just, completely, unworkable situations. And so to make sure that we're able to get actual deals out of, this entire process, like I guess to fill you in, like most of our agents are typically doing between, at least on average, are doing between 1 and 5 deals a month after they've been working with us for a couple of months here. So we're typically generating around 1 to 5 new clients every single month. And so in order to make sure that we don't go a full 30 days and all we have to show for it is a bunch of names, phone numbers, and emails, we typically recommend our agents are spending at least $30 a day on their ads, at least to get started, because this is going to make sure that you get enough people in the door to where there are actual transactions. And to kind of break that down for you, the NAR has done a ton of studies on online lead conversion, and it's pretty common across the board that only around 1 to 4% of them will actually convert. Like only 1 to 4% are actual legitimate buyers and sellers, right? And so in order to make sure that our agents are consistently doing that 1 to 5 deals a month, we need to make sure we're getting enough leads in the system to where that 1 to 4% is equal to actual transactions. So obviously, if you're gonna, be exploring this as a method of like acquisition for getting new clients, you definitely want to make sure that this is something you're pretty comfortable with. But that's just what our personal recommendation is. Whether you're working with us or you're doing it yourself or any other company out there, you got to be careful because so many agents make the mistake of spending too little. They're spending $500-600 a month on their ads, and then they go a full month and they get leads, they get a bunch of names, phone numbers, and emails, but they don't have a transaction out of it. They don't have any clients to show for it. And so they think it doesn't work, right? When a lot of the times, as long as the marketing's good, it just requires a little bit more volume, right? Because across the board, we know only 1 to 4% of them are going to be legitimate buyers and sellers. And so this is how we're getting people in the door in the first place. Now, from there, we're generating a very high volume of leads, right? Typically anywhere from like 60 or 80 to, upwards of 200 leads every single month. And that number will vary based on the quality of leads that you're trying to generate, the targeting that you're doing, the market that you're in. But across the board, it's a very large volume of people. And so, I mean, I'm sure it can be very difficult to follow up with all of those people and actually sort through them to find the actual buyers and sellers. And that's where our ISA team comes into play. So we have a team of US based agents that are, they all specialize in real estate. Some of them are licensed themselves. And so we're able to have very high quality conversations with these potential buyers and sellers to kind of sort through them, figure out who's serious, who isn't, that sort of thing, filter out the bad numbers, the ones who aren't interested, the ones who are just kind of browsing, that sort of thing, and have an in-depth conversation with everyone who is serious about their budget, their time frame, their motivation, their financial status, their search criteria on their new home, and most importantly too, making sure they're not already represented by an agent. We see this happen with Zillow a lot, especially when they're like calling in, is that, it's usually just someone who needs a door to be opened for them, right? They're not actually, looking for an agent. And so we really want to make sure that before we pass anyone off to our agents, they're unrepresented and they're actually looking to make some kind of move. And so we'll go ahead and sort through all of those, find them, and then we'll connect them to our agents via live transfer to make sure that you actually get connected. So you'll just, essentially get a call from us. You'll save a number in your phone so it's us calling every single time. And then you'll get a call from us. We'll say, hey, we have so-and-so on the line. They're looking for this, 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 and this. They have this property. They're thinking about selling it. They need to find out how much they're going to get so they know how much they can put towards their next home or whatever, give you the scoop on what their situation is. And then, we'll tell them before we pass them off, hey, I'm going to get you connected, with so-and-so. That's our preferred agent in the area. They're going to be able to make sure, that you're getting the maximum value out of your property, make sure you're not leaving money on the table, that sort of thing. So we can kind of create like a good first impression that way. And then we'll go ahead and merge that call, introduce you to each other, and then you can take over from there. Typically, you'd set an appointment, meet with them in person, start building that relationship, get them connected with your lender if you need to, and you just essentially work the deal as you know how to do from that point on. Now, the last part of our system is, like I said, basically the skeleton of the whole thing. And so we have a number of tools in place to help make sure that deals don't slip through the cracks. So different pipelines and everything to keep track of where they are along the process, from when they come in to when they're transferred to you to, when you've had your first appointment with them, when they've signed documents, when the property is listed, or if it's a buyer while you're showing them properties. Once you've written an offer or accepted an offer while you're in escrow, you can keep track of where everybody is at, all in one place to be able to essentially predict what your upcoming business is, right? Like our goal with this is to fill up your pipeline with deals that are going to be closing over the next 18 months, right? Like we want to just compound people, compound clients. And then after you've been doing it for a while, you're going to look down at the next, 12 to 18 months and you're going to see, okay, I have this person who's expecting to close in 2 months, this person in 4 months, this person in 6 months, this person's in 8 months. And you're going to have, tons and tons and tons of business that is basically scheduled on your calendar, and you're just awaiting their time frames. And then the more you do it, the more it compounds and you're able to grow very quickly and very consistently as well. And so in addition to being able to keep track of all your deals, we're also able to do a lot of outreach, using this system. So texting, your people, following up with them via SMS and email, to really filter out the people who are unresponsive and everything. And that's what we're doing here, right? We're optimizing for responsiveness, because at the end of the day, you'd rather get a no from somebody than no answer, right? Because, why would you want to waste time calling someone and texting them and emailing them and following up with them if they were never going to do anything in the first place? And so we're able to filter out a lot of the people who are not serious, just kind of looking, that sort of thing, but then also provoke response from the people who don't even pick up the phone in the first place, right? Like, we have, our ISAs will call leads 15, 20 times before they finally pick up the phone. And turns out, it's a seller who has this property. They've been sitting on it for 10 years and they really want to get rid of it to move and be closer to their grandchildren or something, right? And so just because they don't pick up the phone the first, even 5 times, it doesn't mean we should stop following up with them. And so that's why, our ISA team is there, calling them every day, texting them every day, emailing them to, essentially get that response from them to figure out if they need help, essentially. So yeah, I know that was a little long-winded here, but that's essentially a breakdown of kind of how our process works. So, if you feel like this is something that will work for you, then, I'm super excited to chat with you and kind of dive into your business a little bit more, get a good understanding of, what the potential integration process would look like. Because at the end of the day, like, we're not trying to be the next Zillow. We want to work, of we're building this out inside of each agent's business that we partner with, right? We don't want them to be relying on us, paying us monthly fees every single month, And so we're going to go into your business and essentially build all of these systems out so you have them forever, regardless of whether you continue working with us on a long-term basis or not. And so, this, it looks very different for everyone, right? Like, you may have an ISA already, you may have CRM systems and stuff in place, you may already have great strategies when it comes to generating leads. And so we're here to kind of work with you to figure out what makes the most sense for you and kind of come up with a solution to help you generate a more consistent flow of business. So either way, I'm super excited to chat with you, and if you have any questions in the meantime, do not hesitate to reach out.